Well, thanks for coming down, man.
Yeah, it's good to be here. It's good to meet you in person.
Yeah, finally. You guys have been on. You guys were one of the first ones on the card.
Really? I did not know that.
I'd say like first 20.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're stoked to be on it.
Yeah.
I was stoked when it showed up in the mail the other day.
Oh, that's cool.
I was like, yes, I'm going to make use of this. As soon as this is all over, I'm going to be out at like every restaurant. So.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I never know if people use the card, the participating spots or not. Mm-hmm. You know, because we don't have any tracking or anything like that set up. Right. So it's always like at the end of the year when we go to send out the new cards, I'm sending it out. I'm like, I don't even know if anybody's used this at your spot or not, you know? Right. So we have Amanda now that works for us, and she's been reaching out to people more often. Her job, she's been with us for over a year now, and her job since quarantine has really just been to contact restaurants and just see if they need anything from us.
Right. Yeah, we've heard from her.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And so one of her things was like trying to find out if, you know, people use the card at restaurants or not.
Right.
So we're hoping it gets, you know, we get more and more people using it.
Yeah.
So
for us, it's tough. I mean, unless you're buying 5-6 coffees,
exactly,
or you're buying at least 2 bags of coffee, you're not going to hit the threshold. But the people who have the card definitely know that, and they'll buy a 5-pound bag of coffee.
Oh, that's cool.
A lot more all at once.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I think there's I was thinking about doing little tricks one day or like tips for different spots around the card. Mm-hmm. It was like I realized at IBU Brewery, which isn't around anymore, but like a 4-pack was $20.
Right.
So if I went and got a 4-pack and then sat there and had a pint, it would put me at like 26.
Right.
So I'd basically get my pint for $1.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I was trying to do little things like that for people. Like I was thinking about putting tips. So like they would, you know, if you go to Simple Roast, get 2 bags of coffee and buy a latte, and it's free, you know.
Right.
We just had a coffee shop join, and she gets her coffee from Recess, and then she gets her pastries from a bakery. And so the margins on those things are just so small.
Right.
And so she was like, I just need to put a caveat, like they can't use it to buy coffee or pastries.
Right.
And I'm like,
because then she's losing money.
Yeah. And I'm like, no one's ever going to get to $25.
Yeah. Very unlikely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if they are, you want to nurture that relationship because they're coming back often. So.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah. Well, cool. Well, I'm excited to have you on. We did our coffee roaster month last year, and we had I wanted to have you on then, and I wanted to have the guys at Fojo on. Then.
Dan and Dan, they're great. Love those guys.
And then just things happen. I was never able to do it, so I'm glad you're finally here.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah. So I'm really curious because I think it's like the smartest move for a local coffee shop in our immediate area. You guys are out in Auburn. You have 2 locations, correct?
Yep, 2 locations, and we just opened up our online pickup spot as well at our roastery. So,
oh, that's cool.
Yeah, you can stop in, see me working, and pick up coffee.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you're drive-throughs completely.
Yep.
Besides the pickup location now, but the 2 huts. You can't walk up. No, well, maybe you could, but
please don't walk up. Yeah, it's not safe.
And I found from like the few times I've been there that if I'm not there at like certain times, it's going to be a line.
Yes,
like you're a popular destination.
Yeah, we're working on that though. I mean, we're happy to be popular, but we're working on speeding the line up. But, But yeah, I mean, on a normal morning, there's 5-6 cars on each side at both locations, so all 4 windows are hopping. But, we're reinvesting in the business constantly. So like we just upgraded the espresso machines. We're changing the way we do things. We're sending people out now while the weather's nice to take orders in line and kind of speed it up and move it.
Yeah.
And we actually just entirely moved our original location about 25 feet.
Yeah.
To allow for space.
That's cool.
For traffic to build up because the town was getting a little upset with us.
Oh, really?
But we're good now. So
I've said it to you before, but your chai, I know, maybe as a coffee roaster, that's not something
that's okay. I'm just happy when anybody likes whatever they got from us. So
is it? So I want to say it's the same stuff. Cafe 407 used to use it as well, and then there was this random spot in Ohio that I found it at in Cincinnati. I forget the brand name of it, but it's amazing. It's delicious.
Yeah. Thank you. It's great. And I got to give credit to our milk vendor. I think Hillcrest Dairy is like half of the reason that it's so good because it is half chai, half milk.
Yeah.
And their dairy is just phenomenal. Like they are one of the silent backbones of our business. And like, we love working with Dan and his family, and like, they've been huge for us. I mean, he comes in a couple times a week and he has a key to the building. He comes in, he delivers, he loads the fridges up and everything.
Oh, that's cool.
And they're super local. They're right in Moravia. So just outside of Auburn. But.
Yeah. I've known Dan through a couple of people. Like, they do some stuff for Abbott Farms, and I'm with them for their marketing in Beeville.
Yeah.
And, it's just really, there's a small operation. It's like just his family.
Right.
And they're producing a ton of milk.
So much milk. Yeah. I mean, even just the amount that we go through, and then I think about all the other accounts he has. I'm like, this guy's working harder than anybody I know right now. So,
I mean, being at Kubal, to think of the amount of dairy that coffee shops go through on a daily basis.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yes.
Absolutely crazy.
Yes. It's like most of the huts, people always say like, oh, it's bigger in here than I thought it was going to be when they step in.
Yeah.
And 1/3 of the space in the hut is refrigerators because we just need space for milk in there. You know what I mean? He stocks it, and it has to last us for at least a few more days until he comes back.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy.
Yep.
So how did you get into the coffee business?
Boredom. I hated my day job. You know, I was working as an insurance adjuster, and it was awful. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was a great job in the sense that it afforded me the time to write my business plan while I was literally on the clock there.
Yeah.
And just started, I originally started brewing my own beer because I was looking for a hobby. And that was okay. I wasn't exceptional at it by any means. But then I just looked into roasting coffee, and my parents got me a tiny little Baymore 1600 roaster that does like 1/4 of a pound or 3/4 of a pound at a time.
That's cool.
And just stuck with that.
Yeah.
Kind of what I had said, like I wanted to buy more green beans and explore the world of coffee. And in order to do that, I had to start selling some of the coffee I roasted. So I set up at the Cazenovia Farmers Market, and it just sort of took off from there. I mean, it's been 9 years now, I think.
Wow.
And, it's just grown very organically over time. Like, friends and family were really the people who kept us going when we first opened. Like, just, even if they were just being nice and just buying bags of coffee and like helping out, but that's like what we needed to keep the business going. And eventually it paid off. We just kept reinvesting. And eventually the building in Auburn came up for sale. And I went to my wife and said, like, listen, this perfect building came up in Auburn. I know we've never been there, but like, I think it's the right choice. I want to quit my job and buy this and like open a drive-through cafe. And I mean, I love my wife. She was just like, okay, like, let's do this. Like, no problem. She didn't even like get nervous about it or anything. She's just like fully supportive of it. And we've just been going at it since then.
Yeah. What does she do for a living?
She is a librarian in Fayetteville, actually, at the Fayetteville Free Library. Yeah.
Wow. It's the second librarian I've ever, I haven't met your wife, but second librarian I've ever met.
Yeah. She's a children's librarian, and she like loves her job, and she's just phenomenal at it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So when you like found the space, like how did you work through, like, because I'm really curious about this. How did you work through the funding and getting that up and going? Like, did you guys have a bunch of savings? Did you take out a loan?
Yeah. So
I know that's a really personal question.
No,
about
that's
your
okay.
Finances.
I'm an open book, man. So for a long time, I was just roasting and just doing farmers markets.
Yeah.
And I was saving. I never paid myself out of that for 4 or 5 years. It was just like a pet project, like doing on the weekends, whatever. And just reinvesting in the business. My parents gave me a small loan.
That's cool.
To build out essentially a roastery in Manlius. We were at the time sharing a space with Loon Chocolate. Okay. And they rented out one bay of the garage on their property to us, and we turned it into an approved kitchen for roasting. Yeah. So, we saved up from there. And then when the building came up, I had enough in the business to buy the building outright and take over the lease, which like sounds crazy, but like, the building was $6,000. Like, like how can you not buy it for that price, right? Like,
what was in there before?
It was kind of a catch-all. She was doing like hot dogs and ice cream and coffee and a little bit of everything. Yeah. And prior to that, it was an ice cream stand, and then before that, it was originally Drive-Thru Joe's. So that building did start out as a coffee drive-thru. Yeah. So.
I've only seen the huts like that when I was growing up. We lived in Kentucky, and there was this one, like, I think it was called like Red Eye or something like that. It was like even smaller than what yours is.
Right.
And that's what it was. And then over time, it turned into a 1-hour photo. spot, and then
That's funny.
And then it went back to a coffee shop. So
Yeah, I was going to say that's kind of the reverse of what it usually is. The 1 hour photos turned into coffee drive-thrus. That's why a lot of them are out on the West Coast and stuff.
Yeah.
And shout out to Coffee Mania in Cortland, because that's where I saw that and what they were doing probably 15 years ago when my brother was working out there. He's older than me, so I went out to visit, and he took me through Coffee Mania through their drive-thru, and I was like, this is so smart. Like, this is such a good business model, and like they're killing it. Like, their staff is great. I love this.
Yeah.
Went to school for entrepreneurial and just kind of always kept it in the back of my mind. And so when the building came up, I was like, this is it. Like, I've been waiting 15 years for this moment, like it's perfect.
Yeah. See, I struggle with, I have an idea for a business and I just want to do it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to wait.
Yeah, I hear that, but it's a lot easier not to do it when you're totally broke.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that is true. Yeah, it really is a great model, especially, I mean, for a number of reasons. Obviously, well, I mean, you bought the building.
Sure.
I'm sure you have to pay rent for the property, right? So,
Right.
But all of your costs are low. And
Yep.
right now, especially in the world that we live in, I think that there's a lot of places that would love to have something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate that this is going on, but at least for us, we're kind of perfectly set up for it. We can have almost zero contact with our customer other than taking their order in a safe fashion. And, our biggest change was staff wear masks, and we put a shelf outside the window so we can set the drink on it and we don't have to do any hand-to-hand contact.
That's cool.
So,
yeah. I was saying earlier before we started, there was one day over the summer, I was driving down Erie Boulevard, and I was driving from like Fayetteville all the way down into the city down Erie, and there's all of those fast food restaurants on Erie Boulevard, right? I think it's like everything is there.
Yeah.
And all of them at like 1 PM had a line through of their drive-through out to the road. I mean, just 20 cars in line at each of these drive-thrus. And people were, I feel like, maybe people who didn't eat fast food before that were now starting to do it because they felt safer doing it.
Right. Safer than walking in somewhere.
Right. And that's a really big deal. I mean, especially now as we're kind of like coming back, like we're in another surge of it.
Right. Yeah.
And we're on the verge of another shutdown. Restaurants have to have some form of like complete contactless offering.
Right.
It's pretty crazy how things are shaking up right now in the industry.
Yeah.
So did you notice that you guys were busier during quarantine?
Yeah. We talked about moving the building, and I think that it's as a result of quarantine. We closed down for 2 months in, I think, April and May, for our staff, basically. They were getting very uneasy, and they were unsure, and at that point, we hadn't made the changes as far as like the shelf outside and eliminating the physical punch card and going to an electronic system.
Yeah.
And so they were rightfully worried. It was a very uncertain time, and we wanted to keep them safe. So we closed down and kind of changed what we were doing a little bit and regrouped. But man, when we reopened in June, it was like, I know there's a pandemic going on and the economy's in a slump, but it was nuts. I mean, that's why we had to move the building, because the line was blocking Route 5. And the city was not happy about that. So I mean, it's great that it happened that way. I wish that it hadn't been so crazy, so we didn't have to move the building. But yeah, I mean, it's just been unreal. Like, I do feel for everybody having a tough year, but it does feel good to say like we're okay. We're gonna make it through this. And we're even almost having a good year. But so
there are some that have had that are having the best year they've ever had.
Right.
I've got a client who during quarantine, when everything was shut down and it was just takeout, they were excelling more than they ever have before.
Right.
They had they have a huge restaurant, but they had a limited staff. They had like 2 cooks, where normally they would have at least 4. So they went down to 2 cooks, and it was just like the 2 owners that were handling everything else. And so their staff, their overhead was limited for that reason. They didn't have as much payroll.
Yeah.
And during that time, I feel like the general public really felt like we need to get out there and support these restaurants more than ever.
For sure.
So people were ordering more than they typically would, and getting takeout or delivery. And I think obviously a big thing that played into that was it was a true like lockdown. Like no one was doing anything.
And it was, a small piece of normalcy. Like you can go out and get the food that is like a comfort to you and also support like a local business. But, it's that small bit of normalcy that I think like everybody super needed. Like we ate so much Noodle House from Camillus for like months. We still do. Like I love that place. It's the best. But they knew we were supporting them for sure. So.
Yeah. And people had more money.
Yeah.
If they were on unemployment, then they had more money. And in most cases. So I think all of those things played a factor.
Right.
And then when things opened up, I know for a lot in the beginning it was crazy, especially if they had good outdoor seating. Yeah. And then now it started to kind of like take a really nasty turn for the worse.
Right.
I don't have a good feeling about the winter time.
I don't think any of us do.
The past couple weeks for a lot of restaurants have been awful.
Yeah.
I talked to one who's had 6 customers this week. And they're a big dine-in restaurant, and so I know that that's just because cases have been blowing up and restaurants have been, it seems like every day there's more than one restaurant who's making an announcement.
Right.
I'm just waiting to see if like the holiday season with Christmas, if people are going to spend more money.
Right.
Because it's the holidays, or if they're going to still kind of hold back. But I don't have a good feeling for January, February.
No. And I think every business owner will tell you, especially in like the cafe or restaurant business, November and December pay for January, February, March.
Yeah. Right.
That's a really slow quarter.
Yeah.
It's really tough, especially in this area. Everybody's inside. Nobody's going out and doing anything.
Yeah.
They're stuffed from the holidays. They're strapped from the holidays. Like, you got to make your money in November and December.
Right.
So I am really worried about like a lot of places around here and like how that's going to affect them, especially because everything is spiking now before the holidays.
I know.
So.
I know that a lot of places have closed already. I mean, Syracuse, I feel like or Central New York, our area has usually been immune from like a lot of the bigger issues that affect the country. And we don't get hit as hard with some stuff, but I feel like, and I don't think we've been hit as hard as we should have been during all of this, at least in like our industry. I feel like it's going to get hit pretty hard. And I hate to say this, but I think it's arguably a good thing. Everything has to have its season, and you kind of have to have like the death to have regrowth. And I feel like that has to happen for our industry in the area.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of businesses.
And, I mean, to touch on that, I was just talking to another business owner the other day about how this is like the ultimate adapt or die situation, right? Like if you own a restaurant, you're either smart enough to figure it out or rework it or change the way you're doing things, or, I mean, the writing's on the wall, right?
Yeah.
So, which every business owner, I feel like, has that ingrained in them. Like if you're in business, you have figured something out. Right. Like you figured out how to make it work for you.
Yes. I'm going to say something that sounds really bad.
That's okay.
I still have an immense respect for like small business owners, especially in like the food service industry. Because like the businesses that I run don't really, I mean, now there's all this cost of all this tech and everything like that, but I don't have to have any of this. Right. Sure. Eat Local was like no startup cost at all. Especially we started out as like a marketing portion, so you could just do everything from your phone.
Sure.
So if you had a cell phone plan, then you were good. And even like the coffee company, I mean, the grinder was the most expensive thing, and that was arguably a premature purchase. But day one, like before we made the announcement, I'm just thinking, someone's going to need their coffee ground, and I'm not going to be able to do that.
Right. And you don't want to spend 10 minutes at a small grinder grinding one bag of coffee.
Exactly.
So,
but even with that premature grinder, the startup cost for those businesses is like nothing compared to somebody that's opening up a restaurant or a coffee shop.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, and so the amount of respect I have for somebody who takes that much risk, like either A, saves up all that money for all that time, or B, just takes out the loan and is like, okay, I'm going to try. The amount of respect I have for those people is immense. But having said that, over the years, I've met some of them.
Yeah.
Who it's like, who let you do this?
Yes,
like,
absolutely. Yep.
Where are your parents? Like, someone needs to come and help you. And those are the ones I really feel bad for right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the only thing you can say about that is like everybody knows the risk, right? Like, where are your parents? But at the same time, like you're probably an adult, like
right. Hopefully,
like it's good that you have a dream, but you need to be cautiously realistic about it.
Yeah.
I'm sure that you have the same experience I do when you go in someplace and it's not a great experience or it's nothing really exceptional, and you're like, well, that is awful for them.
Yeah,
like,
right.
I feel bad, but that's how it goes.
Yeah. We've tried to be aware with all of this, especially like we were at dinner last night and we were the only table in there.
Right.
And so we were just like, all right, we're going to order just a little bit more. Like we're going to have a second beer or, whatever it is, just to try and do something. Because it's rough for a lot of them for sure now. For everybody, really.
Right.
But I'm trying to communicate this to some people that I work with, and that is the need to kind of reinvent and add, especially their menu, add different stuff. There's a new pizzeria that opened up in just actually not too far from here on Burnett, and she's doing a Chicago deep dish pizza.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
She's been open. This is her second week open. And last Saturday, she had to call it at 3 p.m. because she sold so many pizzas, she ran out of dough.
Right. That's amazing.
Yeah. And so, I mean, she's selling 500 deep dish pizzas a day.
That's amazing.
It's insane.
So there's people out there looking to buy things. You just have to have what they want.
Exactly. Like nobody around here in Syracuse does deep dish.
Right.
And then she opened up and she knows what she's doing. She's, it was actually cool. She comes from pizza for over a decade, but she'd been working on a deep dish pizza, but she messaged the Giordano family from Chicago, who's the deep dish people.
Yeah.
And she was like, hey, I'm getting ready to open up here in Syracuse and we're doing our version of a deep dish pizza. Do you have any advice for us? And they responded and were like, well, when are you opening? And so they were like, why don't you fly out here and spend a day with us and we'll show you some of our stuff.
That's amazing.
So she flew out there. They had a limo pick her up at the airport, took her to the restaurant, spent an entire day showing her everything except for their dough, because that's the secret.
Sure.
But showed her everything else, and then had a limo, had a hotel for her, had a limo for the next day to go back to the airport, just took care of her.
That's amazing.
And then, so now she's here and, doing that and just crushing it.
I'm going to have to message some big time coffee roasters and be like, listen, I just really want some insight here,
I'll tell you what, when we were in quarantine, I got some big podcasts with people that I got the guy who owns, his name's Andrus Langston, and he invented the baking steel, which it's a steel plate to bake bread and pizzas at home.
Yeah.
And it's the best. Those it replaces your pizza stone.
Sure.
But do you know have you ever heard of Kenji Lopez Alt from? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I literally have a friend who's been pushing this on me for
really?
months now. He's like, you need to watch this. You need to whatever. Yeah. And I have a note on my phone, and I just showed him last night that yeah, look, I took your note. I have it on my phone. I'm going to follow up on this. So I'm sorry, Hunter. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm going to.
I mean, Kenji, the Serious Eats podcast is great. And Kenji's on that. He was at Serious Eats for a while doing a bunch of blogging and stuff, but he is the scientific food person.
Gotcha.
And he owns a restaurant in California. And, he did when his restaurant shut down when California, well, I think they still are in lockdown, but
yeah.
He started doing cooking videos from his home kitchen, and he literally just straps a GoPro on his head and does them point of view, and they're great. They get millions of views. But anyways, Kenji took the baking steel when it first came out years ago, and he's known for just testing everything.
That's awesome.
In every aspect. And so he did that with the baking steel and then wrote a big article on how great it was. It was the best way to make a pizza at home. Huh. And this guy's business blew up from that.
That's amazing. And he's here in Syracuse.
No, he's in Boston.
Oh, okay.
Their company's out of Boston, but he's a huge deal in the culinary world for this baking steel. So I just DM'd him during quarantine. It was like, hey, would you want to be on the podcast and do it? He was like, yes. And so I got to interview him.
That's awesome.
There's a food photographer out of LA that I got to, like really well-known food photographer. I got to interview him, phone interview on the podcasts. So during quarantine, people were like, yeah, sure, let's do it.
Yeah.
Great.
I'm at home, sure.
Yeah. So reach out to people. I'm sure that they'll, connect for sure, man. And that's one thing I love about all this that's been going on, as bad as that is to say, is that like you have the ability to reach people that we had the ability to do it before, just nobody really ever thought about it.
Right.
Right.
And like, I think that goes back to like what I was talking about, like, you have to change your business model. Like it's everything, right? Like it's all of that stuff. Like you're reaching out to people you never would have thought to before because they seemed inaccessible, but here they are. Right.
Right. So. All right. So, you start with roasting, you go into, what's the name of the chocolate place?
Oh, Loon Chocolate.
Chocolate. I always want to say Luna, and I think it's because there's a new cafe that's opening up called Luna.
Gotcha.
It's a cat cafe that's supposed to be opening up.
That's awesome. Yeah. I didn't know about that.
Yeah. It's like near downtown. It's just off East Genesee Street.
Cool.
I don't know how they're going to do that with COVID.
Hold out for the vaccine, I guess.
Yeah. Have you ever been to one of those before?
No, but I would like to. Yeah.
I went to one in New York City once, and they served like Stumptown coffee out of there. But in the front part, it was like a typical kind of small neighborhood New York City cafe. And then in the back, they had like this glass room, and that you could go, there was like a downstairs to it, and you would go in there, and it was like $10 for an hour, and you could go in there and just play with cats.
That's amazing.
They had like a dozen cats in there.
It didn't even occur to me that you would have to pay to go in to play with cats. I thought they would just be like roaming around, but that's funny.
Yeah. So this guy's supposed to open up one of those in Syracuse. Cool. Yeah.
That's awesome.
All right, so you go to roasting at a Loon, and then you buy the building, you buy the hut.
Yeah, and for a little while, I continued to roast in Manlius and supply in Auburn. So I was, driving back and forth, and it was crazy. But
like an hour, 45 minutes?
Yeah, it's like a hour and 10.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. I've blocked that part of business out. This was a lot of work. It was before kids. I couldn't do that now.
Yeah.
So, but eventually that became too much. And like I was also baristing in the huts 6-7 days a week, and then roasting on top of that. So we would close up originally at 2:00. I would leave, go roast, bring coffee back the next morning with me, essentially. But
how big was your roaster then?
That one was the 2 kilo. So it was only, doing around like 5 pounds a batch, but we really weren't busy back then, so it wasn't like totally crazy. And then we got a little bit more busy and we upgraded to a 10 kilo.
Okay.
Which was a huge jump. I mean, that was, 20 pounds in a batch or whatever. And then we eventually, we had a customer who came through, and he was a property owner and had a warehouse that was doing nothing. And he said he would build it out for us a little bit if we brought the roaster over. So, and that ended up being perfect. It's, 3-4 minutes from the hut.
Nice.
So I'm all doing it all in one place, but we just recently purchased that building off of him, actually.
Oh, that's awesome.
Our kind of our headquarters, and that's where the online spot is. And
that's great. So, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Feels good to have a home finally.
Yeah, I bet, man.
Yeah.
It's amazing to see like the coffee roasters in the area that have slowly over time done that, I mean, I was actually there's a place in Syracuse that popped up called Nice Biscuits. And they're only weekends. It's only delivery that they do themselves or pickup. And but they're doing their entire operation out of Recess's commissary kitchen that they do all their baking out of.
Yeah.
And they've bought that building that they have over there on Boss. But it's just cool to see these coffee companies that like start in a basement, and then just slowly build into these really well-established businesses like yourself. That's great.
Yeah, thank you. And I mean, we, I roasted on the back porch of my old house for a long time, and then we moved up to the garage, so I got the whole garage to myself to roast. And then I moved into an actual like commercial kitchen garage at Loon Chocolate. But now, yeah, we have this whole building. We purchased it. We have kind of the center of it is like an office space, so one of my managers can come in and do paperwork and all that other stuff. But it just was a good opportunity. It's in a not well known part of Auburn in what was a dilapidated building, and we're just working on fixing it up as we go. That's cool. And try to fix the neighborhood up a little bit with us.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, man. So, how many years did you have the first hut until you opened up the second one?
It was, it feels like no time at all. I think it was 2.5 years. I was actually talking to my wife about this last night. I was like, what was the timeline? But we opened the hut in September 2016, and we opened the next one in March of 2019. So it's been, over a year or whatever. But, it felt like it was nothing. Like, the first year in the hut was really slow, and it was just like me and my two managers, and they're still with me. And we were working all the time, but it wasn't that busy. And then all of a sudden it was like a firestorm, and we got crazy busy. We expanded hours just to keep up with customers, and people were constantly asking for like another location because the line was too long. So, very quickly into like the first one just picking up, I had to already start thinking about the second one. And really the bigger hurdle there was like, where's it going to go? You have to have a big empty parking lot to put it in. But also on kind of a main road to get the drive-by traffic. So, really crazy. We thought, people kept saying, my family in particular kept saying, if you open a second one, aren't you going to cannibalize your own business? You're going to take away from your own drive-through. And I'm happy to report that within 3 months of opening the second one, business at the first one went up, and business at the second one was equal to it already. So they were,
they're far enough apart. I know Auburn's not huge, but they're far enough apart, right?
Right. And they are on, opposite ends of the city. So if you're going out for a wine tour, we get a lot of people going through that. But like the whole west side neighborhood, and then the Grant Ave location, the original one, is all the traffic from people driving from Auburn to Syracuse every day for work or vice versa. Yeah. So we get just a lot of cars going through there every day.
Yeah. So I really love, and I saw this a lot with, maybe 3 years ago with the breweries in town. And, I had asked, I think I'd asked Tim at Buried Acorn first, like, how do you feel about all these breweries popping up? And because like 2-3 years ago, it felt like there was like a new one popping up all the time in Syracuse. And I was like, does it piss you off because now you have another competitor? Or he was like, not at all. He's like, because if somebody pops up, maybe that's opening up a new market for craft beer. Maybe it's getting new customers because they have a neighborhood brewery now that they can go try. And they were Budweiser drinkers, and now they're going to jump onto a craft brewer.
Right.
And Mike from IBU would say the same thing. It was like, we're not competing against each other. It's like we're trying to go after Miller and Budweiser and the big ones.
Yeah.
And I'd say 95% of the local coffee business, the craft coffee roasters in Central New York, all say the same thing.
Yeah.
They don't view it as competing against each other.
Not at all.
They view it as, and I haven't even talked to any of them. They're like, we're trying to take out Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts. They're all just trying to make coffee.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much market space for all of us. It doesn't matter. Like the people who are sworn to Dunkin' are probably sworn to Dunkin'. Maybe you convert them over, and that's great. That's a win for all of us. But there's so much market. So many people drink coffee every day.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we're friends with the guys from Recess, Salt City Coffee, Shambhala out in Beeville.
I've never heard of them.
Yeah, he's out there. Emmett out there. He's got a little shop out there.
Really? Where at?
It's right on like the main streets in Beeville.
Oh, okay. In the village.
In the village.
Oh, wow. Yep.
He's got a roaster. He roasts his own.
I did not know that he existed.
yeah, he's out there. Coffee Mania in Cortland, Cracked Bean Roastery. Cracked Bean actually bought my old roasters and took over my old space in Manlius. Like they're doing so through this, like I don't, we have employees, and like I'm very close with my employees, but those guys are mostly my colleagues. Like we talk shop, we talk about things. Like when we're able to get together and talk to each other, it's like. We could talk for hours. Like I think I've talked to Adam from Recess for like literally multiple hours just about like the business and like how it's going and like what they're doing. And like met their roaster and checked out their space just because they're nice people and we get along well.
Yeah. I cannot get over the coffee that they produce out of Recess in that roaster.
Yep.
And the fact that they bag everything by hand.
Right. Which we have the same roaster, and we also still bag everything by hand. Yeah.
Really? Holy cow. That's insane.
Yep.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have nearly the wholesale business they have.
Yeah.
But, we're still doing a lot,
right.
a few hundred bags a week, I should say.
Yeah.
And by hand. But recently I've been talking about getting a bagger.
Yeah.
And so it's too much sometimes.
Sam just got one a couple months ago out of Peaks.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a nice one. I look at that thing, I'm like, how the hell do you use that thing?
Yeah, it looks like a spaceship.
Yeah, it's cool, insane. Yeah, it's just when I did that video for Recess of like with Graham, I'm just like out of the corner of my eye, I'm watching the two guys bag, and I'm like, there's no way that's like they must just be doing a small, quick order.
Yeah.
And when we were done, I was like, is that how you guys bag everything? He was like, yeah. I was blown away.
Yep.
I mean, that's insane.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's like you think about like by the time I load the machine and I put all the bags under there, like I probably could have just scooped them all myself and just like been done with it. And then it takes up floor space and whatever. So
yeah. And they're insanely expensive.
That too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. You can pay a lot of man hours before you pay that thing off.
Oh yeah, for sure. So, did you see any increase in online orders during quarantine?
Yeah, we actually had to rebuild
Really?
Our entire website. We moved it from Squarespace over to Square.
Okay.
Like through our registers and everything.
Yeah.
We rolled out 5-pound bags. We'd never done that before because, we were also doing local delivery. So like you could order on the website and one day a week we would just drive around everywhere.
That's cool.
Like anywhere you could. My assistant and I were just out driving from house that like literally to your mailbox. We would drop it off for free.
Yeah.
So we were doing a lot of that. And then we also rolled out doing gallons of like iced coffee, iced lattes, all that stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it was, like I said, you have to adapt and just figure it out. But yeah, I wish we could go back to a lot of online sales. That was really nice. But, as soon as we opened the shops back up, it like died right back off. So I spent all this time investing in it and like building it up. And then it's like, oh, no one's using this anymore.
Yeah. I wonder what that shift is to like, and granted, we're going back away from normal times, but I wonder what that shift is to get local people to continue to like, hit up local spots the way they hit up like an Amazon.
Right.
I always thought it would be cool to have like the milkman version of the coffee roaster delivery.
Yeah.
Have somebody like, you're going to order your coffee and we're going to have it delivered. It's going to be in your mailbox by 5 a.m.
Right.
For when you wake up or whatever it is. And coffee consumption is so different. I'm learning just selling it ourselves from different people. Mm-hmm. We delivered a bag to somebody that was ground, and like 3 weeks later, it was a friend of mine. 3 weeks later, she sent me a message. She was like, we just had our first cup this morning and it's great. I'm like, what?
Yeah. Right.
I mean, now having said that, my wife and I, the primary coffee we drink at the house is the Wegmans big canister pre-ground and our Keurig, so,
yeah.
But it just still floors me that, the way that people drink coffee.
Right. I mean, like that's kind of like the namesake of the business for us. Mm-hmm. Like when I started out doing this, there was like third wave is still obviously a very big thing.
Yeah.
But my wife and I like to travel a lot. We would go a bunch of different places. And there's like nothing worse than walking into a cafe and feeling like unwelcome.
Yeah.
Almost like you're not cool enough to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So like the whole business model is built on like, we are not snobby. We're not like, I know a lot about coffee and I'm happy to talk shop with you and I'm happy to have you drink it black and like love it.
Yeah.
But it's also cool with me if like you want to put a ton of cream and sugar in it or all these, like whatever you want to do, man. I just want you to enjoy it. And like, do you like it? Yes or no? Like that's what I built my business on and being approachable. And I think that really resonates with our customers. Like, there was no, to my knowledge, there was no like espresso bar in Auburn when we opened.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of like training the public, but I think that we handled it in such a way that like, we're happy to take the time to explain to you what it is and why it is and like how it works and make them feel comfortable. And that's why they come back and like that experience. I don't think that we have like the best coffee of all time. I think that we just love what we do and that resonates. Like I love what I do and I think my employees love what they do and the customers like to come to a place where people are generally in a good mood and like their job.
That's cool.
And don't feel like they're being turned away because they don't know what a breve is, you know? So
there's a place right down here, Kind Coffee. Yeah.
Doug.
Yeah. I've never been in there, but I always hear the stories of like my buddy's fiance went in there once and she went to put like cream. It was like, whoa, you haven't even tasted it yet. Like, what are you doing? Like, you can't put anything in there until you tasted it.
Yep.
And I've been told that like he roasts darker as the week goes on.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. He's kind of like a legend with coffee roasters around here. Like, he's definitely, you know, to my knowledge, he's one of like the first people who was roasting around here and doing his own thing and truly doing his own thing. I mean, you know, he's not one of the huge names in this area, but I think that he's totally stoked about like what he's doing and like what his business is. That's cool. You know,
and I mean, it's a small space,
right?
It's not like
you should definitely walk down there and check it out.
Yeah,
for the experience alone.
Yeah, I need to. I mean, being here sometimes on the weekends, it's like I wish that there was some place that was open relatively close to go get coffee without having to just drive the 2 minutes into downtown right there. But yeah. But now I have this amazing coffee setup in here.
You got like a shop grinder already, man. You don't need anything.
And beans. So I'm good. Too many leftover coffee beans, though, sometimes.
Like I said, that's what cold brew's for.
Yeah, right. I've just been trying to make like videos. That's why there's like a box of coffee beans behind you, because I'm like all the old stuff I wind up trying to make dumb videos with instead.
That's good props.
Yeah.
Why not?
So what's the goal? Like, what's your dream for Simple Roast for the business? Do you have a vision one day of having a hut all across New York State, or?
I'm already living it, man.
Yeah.
This is it. You know, I wanted one. One was like, I'm happy with this. I've achieved what I want to do. I just want to like my work every day. I want to be in touch with my employees. I want to have a place where I walk in and get the warm, fuzzy feeling like, I get to like see my staff, see my customers, like roast some coffee.
Yeah.
And had to add a second one on just because we were so busy, which like, I'm not complaining. That's a great problem to have. But, you know, adding another one just adds more stress.
Yeah.
Right? It's more people to manage and it gets a little bit away from you. It's already moved to, it's more book work, more back office stuff. And, you know, that's not really what I got in it for. So, I think this is it. Yeah. I'm pretty, you know, I say that, but I'm also not the type of person to sit still. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. But, you know, certainly I'm not looking to like franchise or like run across the country or anything like that. So
is there another business or different business, maybe in a different industry or within food service that you've ever wanted to open?
Yeah. You know, I'm like kind of in between on that. Yeah. I have ideas that I roll around in my head all the time, and my head's on a swivel when I drive around anywhere. I'm looking at like, oh, that's like a cool building, or like you could definitely do this type of thing in there. But I haven't landed on anything yet. Nothing's really like jumped out and really stuck.
Yeah.
I think it would be very cool if we had like a board game / bar scene or like a barcade here in Syracuse.
Yeah.
But that's like it's a pipe dream.
Yeah.
Especially with what's going on right now.
Yeah. I know 3 Lives opened up in downtown, and then they couldn't do any of their arcade games.
Right.
You know, which sucks. Luckily they were able to I think they moved a lot of them over to the Most for them to use.
Yeah.
Cause for a couple weeks there, you just walked in, there was just like arcade games in the restaurant, but there was like a sign that said you couldn't touch them.
Right.
So that was awful. But, yeah, you know, Syracuse I was on the phone with, you know, with Eat Local, we branched out to now the whole state.
Yeah.
And
congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah. It's really not that big of a deal. It's just a decision. But thanks anyways.
It's a decision to grow your business.
I know.
So pretty awesome.
We, because we had Rockland, my brother was doing, and then we always had the idea to just do like Eat Local Western New York and Rochester, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And have them be different businesses. And then a customer came up and bought a card from us last year at the Buy Local Bash, and she was like, I actually live in Rockland. I'm up here frequently, but I live in Rockland. Do you have any restaurants down there? Mm-hmm. And I was like, no, but we do have Eat Local Rockland County. And like I had a card on me. I was like, here, you can just have this one. And as soon as she left, it was like, oh, we should just do one card and one business to like rule them all, you know? So,
yeah.
So we decided to do that. It's been cool. I mean, it's been really interesting to see. I was really particular about not following restaurants outside of like Central New York before on Instagram.
Right.
And just because I didn't want to lose touch of like what was happening in our area. And, you know, you don't see a lot of like we follow so many places. I only see like a third of them anyways.
Right.
But following restaurants in like Albany and Rochester and Buffalo and Hudson Valley. I mean, I haven't even touched New York City yet. But to see like what these other places are doing, like the quality of food they're putting out, how like the quality of their social media presence and their marketing that they're doing, it's insane what exists outside of Central New York in our food scene.
Right.
Absolutely insane.
Yeah. I mean, our Instagram for the business is like, we just follow other coffee roasters, other cafes, other businesses in the same industry, just to kind of like even keep up with what's going on and see the interesting new stuff going on. And like, I mean, everywhere is doing something cool.
Yeah.
So,
so that's been fun to kind of be in the state and then connect with like these, business owners. But to branch out like that, it's kind of like going back to day one with the card. Like when we first started with the card, we would message people and, hey, do you want to join? It's free. And we would get, well, how many people have a card?
Right.
And, we're getting that in like in Buffalo, a couple people have asked us, and it's like, well, nobody in Buffalo has a card.
But they will if you join.
Right. Yeah. But it's free, so just shut up and do it.
Right. Why not? Yeah.
I forget where I was going with that. I was talking about New York State. That happens a lot to me on the podcast.
Okay. Yeah.
Editing the podcast is fun because I'm like, what the hell was I talking about there? Yeah. But we're New York State now, and I think that's all I was going to say about it. But yeah, it's been interesting to like have it. And, this year's been very different with card sales, just without having the events that we typically would do.
Right.
So it's been a challenge. We're doing this. I don't know if I've reached out to you. I don't think we have. We just started a contest. So our goal is to raise $10,000 for the United Way by the end of this year.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it's arguably, I think of it in two ways. It's a really stupid idea. I shouldn't have said that I was going to do that. And because it's like, okay, now I need to sell. We have to sell 2,000 cards by end of December to hit that goal for them.
Sure.
And then another part of me thinks that should be such an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
Because it is the best product that's ever existed, but it should be a relatively easy thing to do to sell 2,000 cards, and to be able to raise that money. And at the end of the day, $10,000 is a lot of money, but it's really nothing. I mean, in the grand scheme of money, that's means nothing, right?
Right.
So we're trying to get restaurants that are on the card to kind of have more of a buy-in in terms of like pushing the card to like their regulars, to their followers. So we decided to do this contest where the participating restaurants will send their customers, whether it's a post or tell their regulars about it, to our website to buy a card. Like, hey, just, we participate, you come in here all the time if you want to save some money. So they'll send the people to our website. And when people buy the card at checkout, there's a box that says nominate your favorite restaurant.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And they'll type in the name. Whichever restaurant or business has the most nominations by the end of December of this year, we're going to handle all of their marketing for them for all of 2021.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So, because we do that for 6 restaurants now. I mean, again, that's how we started 6 years ago, and then we kind of went into just promoting local. So that's the goal. And we're hoping that, like, of all the restaurants, that we'll get enough that, they'll push it enough for us. That,
I think my managers would be stoked if that happened, because now we do all of our social media in-house.
Really?
Like, it's like part of your job during the day is like take a picture and post it. Like,
okay, that's cool. Yeah.
And like we totally organically built our social media presence. Like, it's not crazy, know, but like it's pretty good for just free. We just post stuff online.
That's smart to do that. Like, it's your, like, part of your duties today are to take a picture and post it.
And like I say, it's like part of their job, but like they love it. Like,
for sure.
They probably like some time off, or to like be like, somebody else is handling most of this for the year.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of days where they like to take pictures, or they're proud of the drink they made, or they want to pose goofy and just put it up on the internet. Like, that's cool. So,
so we're doing that contest. So we're hoping that that'll help us kind of hit that goal. And we've started we hired Stay Fresh to do like really great pictures for us of the card. We got some great shots from them.
Yeah.
And the card designs this year were great.
I love the card this year.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
I think that'll help. We just added a randomizer tool to our website. So literally, you could go to. I'm gonna pull it up to show you. So when you go to our website now, it says "Can't decide where to eat. Let us decide for you."
Smart.
And you just press a button, and it randomly selects one of the restaurants that are on the card.
Huh.
So yeah, I've had that idea for like 3 years, and I just finally found somebody that could do it.
It's really smart.
Yeah, so we're rolling stuff like that out. We just want to, get as many people excited about this stuff right now as possible.
Yeah, it seems like a no-brainer to me. Like, why would you not have it?
Right.
And I think, maybe it's just my wife and I and like how we are, but like we like to eat at specifically local places. Like you won't catch us in a chain restaurant for the most part, unless we're like with my family or something. But, it's like, why would you not have it?
Right.
Not even just to promote you, but like,
for sure.
Genuinely, why would, like, if you eat in this area, it doesn't make sense not to have it.
Yeah.
So.
There really is some great food and coffee. And I mean, just the spots that pop up, especially during quarantine, like the charcuterie board Instagrams that have popped up and just doing delivery for that. I just love the fact that people are starting new things, and doing quality stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it definitely contributes to what you said. Like there's going to be a lot of new and interesting stuff born out of this.
Yeah.
And, that's exciting, at least,
Yeah, for sure. Well, tell everybody where they can find you and how they can order your coffee online.
Yeah. SimpleRoastCoffee.com. Or stop at either of our drive-thrus out in Auburn. We're on Grant Ave and Genesee Street.
Cool. So. Thanks so much for coming out. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man.